Okay, you guys, let's do this. It's going to be so professional. Like, so professional. Here we go. Welcome to the Live Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele and VanDusen and June Colson, a couple of clean comedians who support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. I hope you're ready. Get set. Let's go. Since podcasts have a catchy tune, we wrote this song for Michele and June. Clean comedians are best friends too. Oh, that's so good. And you never know what they'll say or do. Here we go, sing with me on Live Support, with Michele who's really short. We'll have a ball, with June who's really tall. They have fun, interviewing comedians on Live Support, with Michele who's really short. Now it's time to start Live Support.
The Live Support Podcast is brought to you by the Hot Breath Comedy Network.
Wow, give yourself a round of applause. Welcome to the award-winning Laugh Support Podcast. I'm your host, June Colson. Most people call me June Bug. Here with my best friend, Michele, with one L, Trisha's sister, Rhonda Colson, Corey's friend, Michele VanDusen. How you doing, Michele?
I am well. How are you today? What's going on?
I am super excited. So anybody who's been following us and listening to the podcast and watching us on YouTube and the Creative Motion Network and all of those know that we've been starting the show with random things that I've found going through my mother's stuff with my dad.
Yes.
And we've had Miss Piggy, the cup, and we've had this weird hat we discovered last week that
This is a hat for my mom. I'm just putting this back out.
Yeah, but your mom's is a normal hat you can wear. My mom's, I don't know. So we have the Cracker Jack box hat. So I've been sharing a lot, Michele, but today, really quick before we get started, I want you to share just more evidence of the fact that you love this cat, Mr. Fox. I don't care how many episodes you deny it. I don't care how many times you say you can't wait for this cat to be gone. You show everyone right now the picture you sent me today. You show that picture, Michele. Don't make me come over there. There it is.
This is Mr. Fox.
In a pig hat for our listeners. Mr. Fox looks like he is snuggled up in a blanket. You're holding him. You are holding Michele. That I didn't notice that before. You are holding that cat like a baby.
Yes, because this is a kitten. All right. This is a kitten and he's just a couple months old. And my son found him in our backyard. And he was it was a thunderstorm. And he was freezing and cold, and he was just a little bit thing, like maybe a month old, maybe 6 weeks. And so he found him, he brought him in, he's been taking care of him. He took him to the vet, made sure everything was okay. And so because he didn't have his family, he still needs to snuggle. So I don't like his nails because he doesn't understand the power of his paws yet.
Yeah.
So, which is a comedy term, power of the paws. Anyway, so
I see what you did there. That was perfect, Michele. Perfect.
But he, I wrapped him up in a blanket and I held him and he was purring like you would not believe, like loud purring, which means he's very happy. But then he also, he was sucking on the blanket. I'm like, ugh. And that's a sign of cats that have pleasure and that they were separated too early. And anyway, so he was sound asleep and that was the only way I was ever going to get that hat on him because I am exploiting him until he does go to college with my son. So if you want to check out my Instagram, there's a bunch of videos and I do have different toys. So this is his microphone.
Yes.
So if you want to see him singing some songs, and then my husband and I were at Walmart and we were in the cat dog aisle and we came across these, and technically this is a dog toy.
Yes.
So my husband checked all of the squeakers on all of the chickens And we picked this one because we thought this is great because we're going to get the cat used to it. And then he's going to go to college. And at the middle of the night sometime, he'll be like, "Rrrr," and wake up my son. We thought this would be so much fun.
Uh-huh.
But apparently what this is don't get on the counter because that thing is there. So this is a great deterrent. So I
Oh
have
my
it now
gosh.
on my desk. So when the cat does come in here, he can sit next to me. He
Mhm.
can play on the stuff behind me.
I hear you,
But-
Michelle. Oh, he can
but-
sit next to you. He has a bed behind you. You have now bought him more things than you've bought your boys, your 4 sons. In the last 2 years, you bought more toys for them than you have your boys their entire life. But tell us one more time, Michelle, do you love that cat, Michelle?
No.
You're lying.
I love
You're
my
lying.
son. I love my son enough to have a cat in my house. So
I can't even deal with it. But I'm going to give you a break because it's your birthday. Okay, so when this episode
Birthday
airs,
month.
it'll be your birthday month, the month
But
of
hang on, one more
September.
picture of him. Isn't he cute? Oh, he's so cute. He's so cute. Okay, go ahead.
So some people claim the whole month, right? I personally can do that because my name is June. I can claim a whole month. It makes me anxious, because constantly leading up to June, like in May when
Mhm.
people are making plans, I hear people whispering my name in different places, but they're not talking about me. They're talking about the month. So I've always been like, I can have a whole
June,
birthday month
June,
because it's my month.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
here's the deal, Pickle. This
Mhm.
is what I just discovered.
Yeah.
My husband, if I claim June, my husband can claim the Jason months.
Yeah.
Did you know before I told you that there were Jason months?
Had no idea, but this is amazing.
So for our listeners, Jason month. My husband is now in the Jason months. It's July, J, August, A, September, S, October, and November. Jason months. So I had the edge on him for a little bit, but now I don't. But speaking of Jasons, let's talk about who's on the show today. Let's see if he knew about the Jason months.
Okay, so our guest today is the man behind the Mysteries of Illusion Magic show. Okay, according to Lindsay G, his shows are incredible, magical, and the perfect date night. He has a superb card manipulation. He's the master of sleight of hand. Let's welcome to the Laugh Support Podcast, Jason Michaels. Oh wait, but there's more. There's more. We have a twofer. Yes, our second guest today has been a professional magician for over 40 years. He is an International Brotherhood of Magicians champion, a 2-time Comedy Award winner, an International Brotherhood of Magicians first place close-up award winner. He's worked in a variety of venues, theaters, comedy clubs, churches, and corporate functions. Let's welcome to the Laugh Support Podcast, Nate's dad, Stephen Bargatze.
All right. There it is. Both of them. How are you guys?
First, I've got a bone to pick.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
This is my cat that went missing 2 months ago, and I haven't seen it. And for me to bring me on here and to show me my kitten with a pig hat on, I'm hurt. I don't think
He is living his best life.
So for our listeners, if you're not
really
watching
hurt.
the podcast, Stephen just showed us a cat, a photo of a cat that looks just like Mr. Fox. And
pretty sure it was.
Michelle this cat mysteriously just showed up. They didn't adopt this cat. They didn't buy this cat. They just acquired this cat, Stephen. So you may be onto something, my friend.
1,000%.
Well,
And then
gentlemen,
this great is it with a pig hat. I mean, that's the worst part. I mean, I can let it go, but that I can't let go.
it's going to be tough. This interview may only be with Jason today. Like,
Steven's out of here.
Well, that's what we like to do for our guests. We usually start off by offending them as much as we possibly can. So we've taken care of that for Stephen. Jason, did you know about the Jason months? Had you heard of it?
What? As a Jason, I did know about the Jason ones. I remember sitting in like some I don't know, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and I looked up at the calendar one day and I just noticed that it spelled out Jason. I was like, what?
What?
And it's like, that is awesome. So yeah.
What count? I don't know.
Like if you look at the calendar and you look at the months, January, February, March, April, May, June, August, September, October, November. Jason.
The first letter
The first
of
letter.
each month spells the name.
Or July. What did I say?
July,
Yeah.
yes, July, August. Yeah, you've got
Sure,
to
I
know.
can find a
So,
dictionary somewhere where if you add up some letters, I'll have Stephen page.
yes. Stephen would be like September, tomorrow, every day.
Yeah,
like that's what
that's
Stephen would be.
right.
He just covers it
I
all.
think that's Jason thing is a stretch.
I think this Jason just low key insulted my husband by saying he's so much smarter than him, because my husband's about to turn 50, and this was the first he had ever heard of it. So clearly he was not paying attention to the calendar or probably anything else in school.
Maybe
so.
I was just paying attention to something I shouldn't have been paying attention to in class. I obviously wasn't paying attention to the teacher.
Absolutely. Well, okay, so guys, welcome to Laugh Support. I am super excited to have two magicians on our show today. I have had I've been extremely fortunate to be able to do a show with Jason, and I have been very fortunate to be able to hire Stephen to come do a show in my hometown. Wow. And so I personally, Michelle, have been able to see how both of these gentlemen use their amazing skill in magic and also incorporate comedy and humor in that. So Jason, we'll start with you real quick, and just tell us, is that something you've always done with your magic? Have you always had a humorous side to the show, or were you the David Copperfield of like super serious and drama, or
You just nailed it.
Did I? Okay, good. Tell us.
David Copperfield for the longest time. When you get into magic and you grew up during the time that I grew up, you grew up watching David Copperfield specials, and all I wanted to do was be as cool as that guy was. And so I actually started as a stage performer. So I was more comfortable on bigger stages, and I was trying to be David Copperfield. But what's interesting about David Copperfield is David Copperfield has a style of comedy all his own. Because we've talked about this before, where I don't even know how do you describe what that style of comedy is. It's extremely commercial. It's the type of comedy that you just know that when he delivers, he's always going to get a laugh every single time. It's very solid. There's not, and this is being 100% respectful, but it does not have like an edgy point of view at all. It's the type of comedy that is going to play across the room for young and old, and everybody's going to laugh. And that's the type of humor that I started with, where it was, if anybody ever called me funny, which I don't think they did, it was because I was doing humor like that.
Yeah, I used to tell Jason, yeah, you're David Copperfield funny.
Yeah, he actually did used to say that.
Because I mean, if you go see his show and he's the only show you're seeing, you're going to laugh.
Oh yeah.
But if you put him in a lineup of a bunch of other comedians, you would think, why was he up there? He doesn't belong. But part of it is his fame, and but also it's just like it is. David, it's easy, to be a little bit of funny. But there's I don't know if this is really true. I always heard it was true, and I believe it's true. But I know in the early, I think it was maybe in the 90s, 1990s or so, Copperfield was traveling. There was a lady in his front row, in the very front row, that had a pair of binoculars looking at him. And he kind of made notice of it, and he said, has her to come up. He takes them, and he puts them on and stares back at her, and he'd go, how does that make you feel? And everybody laughed. Well, rumors are, and I've seen it happen more than once, so I believe this, that he hired a lady to travel with his show. After that, the first time it happened, by just so happened it happened. But he had so little laughs, and he realizes how important laughs are. I don't care what, I mean, he is that serious guy, but even he knows. Oh yeah, you want humor in your show.
Oh, everybody absolutely does. Yeah, if you ever see his show, you're going to laugh a lot.
So he was willing to pay a salary of a person to travel and to just sit in the front row with a pair of binoculars and stare at him. So he knew every night he can get that laugh. That's how
can I get that job?
Hire someone to travel with me. I didn't have that much money.
No. So no binocular lady in your all's front rows. No, not doing that.
But he did just get engaged, so we don't know what's going to happen there. If we hear some strange lady laughing, He goes, that's why he's engaged.
Yeah, that's why I got engaged so that exactly, so that I could have somebody come to my show and laugh for me. Absolutely.
Yeah, but and my lovely assistant. Oh,
Yeah.
you don't want to do that.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
No.
So is that considered polished magic comedies? Like because you said you weren't sure what the term would be. Would that be polished? Like the carbon cutout
I
kind
don't
of a
know. I
thing?
mean, no, only because there's so many great comic comedian magicians.
Mhm.
You know, there's a guy named David Williamson, funniest guy in magic, and Mike King, and Mason Jonathan. Maybe y'all might have, more of your audience might have heard of him.
And those guys kind of specialize more specifically in comedy magic. So if
Yeah.
you're going to see one of their shows, you should expect to laugh. You know that you're going to laugh as much as you're going to be amazed by the magic.
Mm.
When David Copperfield is funny, when David Copperfield does a show, you're really going to see spectacular
magic.
illusions, and
Right.
then the laughter is part of
Yeah,
it.
but it's nothing. And again, the laughter's never going to be like a comedy club laugh.
Yeah.
You're never going to lose it. You're going to go, oh my God, stop. Where with Amazing Jonathan, I mean, I almost peed my pants at one of his shows one time. I had to get up and leave. It's like, stop, I got to leave. And Mike King and all of them, when you leave their show, you're worn out from laughing. And then, and that's just what growing up myself, I wanted to be funny. I knew I had to be funny. I didn't like, Jonathan made fun of magic. Carl Ballantyne, one of the old time greats, made fun of magic, and where none of his tricks worked and everything like that. And it was very funny, but he didn't really do magic.
Right.
And I always said I wanted to be funny like that, but I wanted people too, when they go home, but how did he do that?
Yeah.
You know, I wanted that mystery of magic. So I always thought, I think Mike King does that really well, and so does Copperfield. And it's funny, this is the reason why we kind of got Jason here, because when I met Jason was so not funny.
Nope.
And but Jason was Copperfield. And he had the very specific, what do you call it?
Specific or sophisticated. Okay.
Sophisticated show, very nice and polished. Everything's awesome. And when I do magic, it's like I don't even think this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah, he's just like, I don't think anything's going to work. And at the end, it all works. And then you're like, okay, I was taken on a trip. But Jason was just the opposite. But I kept telling him, we need to get some comedy in there. So this is what would be good about this podcast.
That was very painful, by the way.
I bet.
I came from a theatrical background. I was trying to create a theatrical show. I had an actor's background. And so what I would do is I would write a script, and I would learn the script, and I would deliver the script. And it took Stephen saying to me, the one of Stephen's great qualities is he says about as persistent a person that you'll ever be. And he just kept saying, you have to have more comedy. You have to have more comedy. And hanging around with him and seeing Stephen's show, it became obvious that the type of comedy that I needed to incorporate into my show was comedy that was very specific to me, whether it's just my style of humor or my point of view or whatever. And so that was like, it's hard to hear that when you think that you've got this great show. But the point was always understood that the more you make somebody laugh, if you can wow them with wonderful magic, and they will be entertained, but the more you can make them laugh, it's just like you're just putting layer of layer on top, so that it's just more and more entertaining.
Right.
So our last interview was with a comedian who's in Branson, Missouri, and his name is Joey Aiello. Fantastic comedian. And one of the things that we talked about was having a mentor and somebody in your corner that can say that honest stuff to you, that you can take that from, because you have that level of respect for them, and you know that they have that love for you, and everything that they're telling you is because they want to see you win. They want to see you grow and go. And when I hear that, it literally, it feels like we're looking at the laugh support that you had, Jason, was in Stephen. And I know, I haven't known Stephen very long, and I was really blessed to meet him actually in the same place that I met you. Our friend Ashley Corby was doing an event at a brew house in Nashville, and I went and watched the the show previous to the one I was going to be on, because if I can go see what like the environment looks like and what the vibe's going to be. And this was right as 2020, Nashville was just now starting to have some people come out and do shows and those kind of things. But I got to see both of you all perform in the same environment and incorporate humor in a time that people were kind of thawing out from this cold freeze of life that we had been in. And Jason, I want to tell you that, at that show, it was Stephen's wife. Oh my gosh, Michelle, Stephen's wife came to my rescue, because it was one of those where like the bar, the brewery, whatever, they wanted comedy, but they really didn't tell anybody that we were doing this.
No.
So they were like, there were women at the bar. They were completely wasted. They're talking, they're amping up, getting louder and louder. They're doing their thing. It was a tough environment. And so we can leave gigs like that and feel like, man, that was awful. Gosh, how did I, whatever, I didn't accomplish anything today. But that night, it's just so cool to have you on the show today. That night that you and I did that show together, I had a friend named Sheila who was there, and she had been through it during COVID, and she had a lot of loss. She had a broken heart. And that was the first time she really was brave enough to even venture out of her home and go anywhere. And you brought her on stage, and she was part of the show, which I think is such a cool thing, because it's no longer somebody watching something. They get to participate and have a personal, real experience in what happened that day. And I just want to tell you that, like, she posted about it. I took pictures of her up there. It was a huge night for her. And we could have looked in that room and went, okay, these ladies talked over me the whole time. There was, a mom drinking with her 2-year-old kid beside her, something like there was a child. And I just played around with the kid a little bit, and Ashley acknowledged that the child was sitting there, and we had a little fun with it. But a night like that, you were the support for someone you didn't even know. And I'm guessing that more than once you've had an experience where somebody said that they really needed what you brought to the table.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing that with me. I do remember meeting her and her telling me that she had a really difficult time. That's why we do what we do, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, you said, you said that we were chatting, we were earlier, and you said that you felt as though God told you to go out and do comedy. Well, my story is that I stood on stage as a 16-year-old, and I felt I got a role in a school play, and I felt like I was in the place that I was meant to be. And it's a kind of a very long story, which I'm not going to get into like this long drawn out story. But the point is that I do believe in my fiber, in my core, that I am built to do exactly what I'm doing right now. And so when I step up on stage, it's my opportunity to share the talents, share the gifts, share the blessings that you've been given so that you can bless other people. That I 100% believe that. And I try, whether it's 250 people that are an amazing audience or whether it's 6 people in a tough environment, I try to give my best every day.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely tell that you didn't change anything up. You didn't dismiss the people that were in the room and paying attention. I feel like what I saw you do, you would have done that in a room full of 10 people or 10,000. Like it was you were just giving what you had, and we had a great time. We scooted up to the front row and enjoyed, and I got to see somebody being blessed by that. So I want to thank you for that. And then Stephen, you. Yeah, I got to hire Stephen. He came to my hometown here in Bowling Green. My husband had a 27-year career in the fire service, and Stephen came and entertained. Basically, we just invited police, fire, EMS, friends, family to come, and that's how he ended his fire career, was with laughter and fun. And Stephen, you got a plunger stuck to the head of a firefighter. Does that happen often?
Yes, I did. And the plunger thing it goes right back to what I was trying to, and it's really funny mentoring it. And me and Jason had a show together. It was called The Mentor, and it was a great concept. We did it for a while where they introduced the world's greatest magician, and we both come running out and kind of going like, oh, I thought, oh, I'm sorry, no, it's you, no, it's probably you, and everything. And then we went off, and I said, and he would go off, and I would just tell his story, and instead of me telling mine, I told his, and then and great, I would say he needs this, he's really crowded. Then I'd introduce him. They all go out. He'd come out and he'd tell my story, and he'd say like he's old. He's about done. He really needs this. And it's like I think I'm mentoring him, and he thinks he's mentoring me. And then at the end we finally figure out that we worked. It was fun.
It was fun.
It was a fun show. My mentor was not funny. He was funny off to the side, but his show, Tommy was not funny. But he pushed me to be funny and to do crazy things because he knew he could dare me and I would do anything.
Yes.
And I got an award yesterday in front of 500 police officers for some stuff for my talk that I do to schools about anti-drugs and alcohol. Don't drink. And it's a beautiful award. And a friend of mine, there was a microphone there. He goes, I dare you to go say something. You can't do that. And nobody else everybody, there were 7 people. Nobody went and talked. But I go, oh, yeah. So I went over and I go, I'm apparently, I said, I'm the only one here that's not a police officer getting this award. And so I'd like for y'all to look at this face. So if you ever pull me over, I appreciate just a warning. But I wouldn't have not done that if you had. You can't dare me to do stuff because I'm going to go. Yeah. I'll do it. Yeah. But so that's what it's just really funny how it works. Where I know way more to help him than my guy knew to help me. But the plunger thing would make, and I know I'm off on the rabbit trail here.
It's all good.
But on the plunger, can't tell you how many people tell me I was at that show where you did a plunger on this guy's head and it got stuck. Do you remember that? Well, let me tell you, the plunger gets stuck every night. Mm-hmm. Every night. But the great thing about that is the ability to make people think that they're seeing something that just happened that one night.
Yes.
And that's the true art of comedy when you can do it. I mean, Junebug, and unfortunately, I have not seen you before, but I've seen Junebug several times. Junebug has, just look at her eyes. I mean, come on, every family, we all know somebody like that. We all have somebody in our family like her, talks a little too loud, too much, and and stuff like that. And, that's her, and we're all proud of her. But sometimes
no, they're not all proud of her.
We all go, oh yeah, that's Junebug.
From a distance.
Here she comes. She's probably got chicken in her pocket. But,
she'd probably try the plunger thing with a used plunger. I'm hoping that you're using a new one.
That mine was new. Hey, I'll get this one. But it's just that relatability. So what the plunger routine relates to people, and I'm putting a plunger on somebody's head.
Yes.
And I'm actually sucking the thought out of this guy's head into this guy, and this guy.
Okay.
And again, this is a fine art of comedy for me and music because I'm getting a lot of laughs off this guy who's bald, or at least has a pretty good bald spot, so I can get it to stick. But so in order to do that, a couple things happened. One, I'd like to meet the guy. I don't come out and go, hey, I'm going to put a plunger on your head. But I'm going to show him a little trick or talk to him, maybe say a joke to see if I can tell, can this guy take it? If I can't see him, then I'm going to watch them from the wings. I'm going to see if they're laughing. Mm-hmm. And I use people to come up. I want somebody, I don't want the little old lady. This is getting harder and harder. I want to pick on ladies that's older than me. It doesn't look like I'm trying to pick up a woman. I want her to have fun and not look like I'm hitting on your date.
Yes.
And that's becoming harder and harder. But I look through the curtain. I don't look for the little old lady or somebody that's sitting here with the arms folded or anything like that. I don't look for the couples that sit. I want the lady that's up and talking to people. And everybody's coming over and shaking their hand, going, hey, like patting her on the shoulder, because I want a Junebug. I want that girl to come up because she's already kind of not, I don't want her to be too outgoing to take over the show, but I want her to be comfortable and feel good about coming up and helping this. So, and it's the same thing with the bald guy. I don't want to see a guy talking and he's talking around with his buddies, anything like that. I don't want the guy wearing the hat necessarily that just takes it off and I see that he's bald, because if he's wearing a hat, he might be sensitive about it.
Right.
So I don't want to do that to him unless I've met him already and I know that he's okay or whatever. But so I get him up and I make them, he reads this guy's mind. The other guys, a lot of jokes are happening on him and that, but the audience doesn't know how he did it. That guy doesn't know how he did it. The only one that knows how he does it is me and him. So he's got the power. He can do what he wants. He can go out and go, yeah, this is how he did it, you know. Or he can go, yeah, I can read your mind. You better look out.
Right.
I know what you're thinking. And that's what 90% of them do. You know, they just always go, yeah, I can do this and stuff. So I make them, and June said this a minute ago, I make them part of the show.
Yes.
I'm not making fun of them. They actually felt like they were performing that night. And they did something that nobody else knows how they did it. So when they leave the stage, even though we had some laughs about their head because that thing got stuck on their head, they get stuck 3 times. And but it does. That also brings up my biggest pet peeve in the world with comedians is I hate the fake laugh. I hate the comedian that gets up there and tries to laugh at their own joke or laugh when it's not real.
Yeah.
You know, I know y'all can't see me, but hold the belly and stuff like that. Don't fake laugh on me. But I know that you got it. We do have to fake laugh. Sometimes Nathan laughs at a lot of his jokes and stuff, and I laughed during that plunger. But I tell you, that was the hardest. The whole part of all my magic was for me to finally win that fake laugh. To finally get it where I can make it look like that happened. It's happening for the first time.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I will tell you what was perfect is Stephen picked people out of the audience and I know that he's calculating who he's picking out and all of that stuff. But also at that night, I knew everybody in that room and I knew who he was pulling up and just how special it was for the particular people. Like the guy that he happened to pull up, you know, he had the guest of honor, my husband, was on the stage there, right? So obviously he chose to put him in and had figured out that Jason would be game for something like that. But the guy that he put in the seat behind him was one of Jason's best friends who had retired several years before him, like was one of Jason's most supportive people on the fire department. And Stephen didn't know that, but it's how God kind of worked it out that night, that was the guy in the seat behind him. And that was an experience that got to close out this amazing career that, you know, that my husband had as he was leaving this. So that was really awesome. But the laugh when he was trying to pull that plunger off Mark's head, like full on, like you believe that it was cracking Stephen up. You believe that it was like this, it went wrong. Like it went way wrong this time. Right. Like, and it was so believable. So I totally get what you're saying about that.
You keep bringing up good points. Jason I want to hear more from Jason on how to learn to be funny. But if he can write that book, we can all get rich.
Oh, wow.
But I pray before every show. I'm a believer. I believe in God. I believe in Christ, died for my sins. And so because of that, I believe that he is in control. And so I honestly pray that I don't offend people. Yeah. So that everybody's going, you know, Lord, make them like me and get me, because I'm harsh. I mean, I'm not a nice guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I make fun of myself, but I make fun of a lot of people. And so they just have to take me right. If you take me right, we're all going to have a good time. Just go on the ride with me. But I pray for that to happen. And I pray for that I get these right people. I can't tell you how many times I hear that, oh, you just got the perfect person or you got the perfect. And I know part of it is you get pretty good at picking people and you get pretty good on making people good. But I also know that he has something to do with it too.
Absolutely.
He gives me the right people. I just kind of see them and go, oh, you're the one. It's very rarely that I change. And that's been the hardest thing with me for Nate, opening up for my son, Nathan, because I've gone from doing an hour and 10-minute show to doing 12 minutes, the 15 at the most. And so I don't have that time to make them like me. You know,
right.
Yeah, because I start off in my real show. I kind of build up to being a
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kind of okay. By then, I can call you any name I want, and you're going to laugh at me.
Yes.
But if they come out real fast and have to do that, it is different. Plus, the demographic of Nathan's audience is different than what I do.
Mm.
You know, my audience is growing up with me. We're all used to Don Rickles. We all know who he is. We all know we can laugh and I can make fun of your mom or you, and you know I'm not making fun of you. We're just
Right.
having fun. Well, the young kids today, they don't know that. They just they forgive me because I'm Nate's dad. They kind of go.
Yeah. Now, some of our listeners might not know who Nate is. So, do you want to
Shame on
explain
them.
who he is? Shame on them. Do you want to give like just a little snippet of who this guy is that you keep
Well, you
talking
can't
about?
tell, but I wear a shirt. This is the shirt I wear when I am on the when I work with Nathan backstage. It says Nate's dad.
Mhm.
Because if I don't, I'm the old man. People keep walking up and handing me their empty drinks.
Yes. Yes.
Can you give me a donut? Do you know what that is? Without a toilet paper. Can you take care of that, sir? I go, I'm on the show. So my family has to put it. I had this jacket made so that I could let everybody know who I am. But my son has been doing comedy for a long, long time. And he's been on the Tonight Show 14 times, and he has like 4 shows on Netflix. We're filming another one, and I keep saying we like I am, but he talks about me, so I'm in a lot of it and stuff. But his first comedy album was Yelled At by a Clown, which I think is the greatest comedy album name ever of all time comedy albums. And Jimmy Fallon saw the name and just fell in love with him just for the name. He said anybody that would have a name of that has to be funny. And Fallon came and saw him, loved my son, and he's Nathan's one of Nathan's biggest fans. And so now Nathan tours all over the world. And all over the U.S. About anywhere from minimum of 1,500 all the way up to 6,000, 6,500 seats. He's done a couple of arenas and stuff. He just did an arena with Leah and Morgan not long ago.
Yeah.
Him and Jeff Foxworthy shared one, so I mean he's very funny. He's everything this podcast stands for. He's clean. He can be funny without that. He always says he did shows thinking that his mom and dad was in the audience, and there was a lot of times we didn't tell him. And if he'd have said if he'd have got dirty, his mother would have jerked him off that stage and took him home. I guarantee it. She said, no, you get off. You're not doing this. So, but he just said he always kind of went out with that in it. So he's been really good. And now that I kind of just retired from doing my show, I'm getting too old and get some. So I'm on with me and Jason.
Really?
Jason might talk about it. We're just going to do some churches, and then I'm just going to open for Nate and do that 15 minutes.
Nice.
Make more money than I've ever made during my whole life.
Yes, that's so crazy. I will say this: I've never had the pleasure of meeting Nate, but I've got a lot of friends that are Nashville comedians, and both Nate and Steven, I met their reputation before I met them. Like I already knew about them because people had nothing but kind things to say about them. And when comedians say nice things about comedians, it's such a competitive area. But really, Nate has that reputation of being one of the nicest people in comedy. And he definitely had an amazing father figure, and he will tell you that. And he does say that. And I think the two of you are each other's biggest fans, and it's been really awesome to see both of your journeys blessed in this full circle, because Nate got to grow up watching his dad, be this performer, and eventually Nate did the same, but at the same caliber of how he carries himself in a way that does not, it honors his earthly father, but his heavenly father as well. And he doesn't go out beating people with a Bible, and he's on these secular platforms with late night talk shows that don't always, they're not always into the Christian, culture and who we are and how we believe. But he's that guy that you just know, you just see it
right now that I just saw today, because he was on Joe Rogan apparently last week. He's been on there twice, a couple times, but he was on as a guest, and they were talking about certain things. And Rogan can be and F word every other
Yes.
word
Yeah.
and stuff. And Nathan brought up The Chosen.
Mm.
And they were talking about, about how Hollywood is, woke, all this. Nathan goes, just do what The Chosen does.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy and Joe goes, what's The Chosen? Never heard of it.
Mm.
And so they had about a 20-minute talk about that. And it is blown. I just saw it's got several 2 million something views of that conversation of him explaining Chosen
Wow.
to somebody who's never heard of it and never heard of even that of a show like that being possible, and then to be that great, to have that many downloads, like 200 million downloads or something of season 1 of that. So it was good. So Nathan, I mean, God has blessed him. There's no doubt He's blessed our family, and but for all the rest of you, you can go look up Variety magazine. I think it's July, August. He's a
great.
He's
article.
on the cover, and a very
Fantastic.
big article about him and our family.
It is a great article, and it's well deserved. I mean, I know this is we're here to talk about comedy, but if you want to talk, if you know anything about the Bible, if you've been around church, if you understand any of this, you've heard the stories about how the father, you've got the blessing that can be passed down to the son, which can be the same. They also say that about a curse. That the whole idea is that I've known Stephen for a long time, and Stephen stands up for his views 100%, and he is ready to witness, but at a moment's notice. But also, he just lives by he just has a certain code that his belief, his faith, and he lives it out every day. And I think that you could look at the situation and you could say the genesis of the Bargatze success, you could say that it started with Stephen, and then Stephen's faith that has gone on to bless his children. So,
well, I tell you, that'd be an interesting topic to talk about. Because I'm not a prude, and neither is Nathan can handle way better than me, but I've got asked to do some nights and start, now because of the success of Nathan, I've been asked to go back to comedy clubs. And more and more clubs ask me to do it all the time. And sometimes I've gone back some and got put on shows that I'm very uncomfortable. More that, and again, for all the people, I'm not better than you.
No,
I'm not in that, but I got certain people that will come out to see me, and it just happened to Nathan, and like Bob Saget, bless his heart, he was really nice to us, but his act was filthy.
Yeah.
And the first time when Nathan came, and we'd never seen Bob Saget on TV, and so that's who we went to go see. That guy. He's not there. This other guy, but Nathan's fans came. All Nathan's people came out. We're all really proud for Nathan. There's Nathan warming up for him. Then out comes this guy. Oh my gosh! Then I hated it, but I told my wife, I go, I can't stay here. And again, it's not that I'm better than you. And it's like even when I do some of these comedy clubs today, and some of the people are so filthy and just they think it's funny, it's real comedy and stuff. That this is what I think. If my people that liked me came, or people from all my whole church, if they were all here tonight, how would I feel?
Yeah,
I would feel embarrassed to be on this show.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going to happen to them there.
I think at that point,
good, I walk out. I'm not saying that.
Right. I think at that point though, it's not about like you're trying to elevate yourself. You're trying to protect the people that you love and care about and that have been supportive to you. Because I've had that situation, especially during when things were shut down and people were doing, the online shows and things like that. I somehow I got on somebody's radar and they were recommending me for different shows and things like that, and I eventually had to tell them, I'm like, I appreciate you inviting me on, and I don't mind working with you guys, but you have to understand that I'm not going to promote your show. I can't share that because the lady who teaches the kindergarten Sunday school class loves me, supports me, and tries to watch everything that I do, and that's not fair to people like that who are following me. Right. I want to protect them from that. I totally get that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so
it's a
good.
tough one for me, and so I don't think that Jason has an ethnic bone in his body, but
No, that's what we heard. Well, speaking of reputations, that's what I had heard about Jason before I met her. Well, no, Jason. So obviously, Stephen has been a laugh support for you, clearly in the conversation that we're having. But I wonder if there's anybody else that you would want to mention, or someone else that's been along your
you better not,
journey.
right? I'm sitting right here.
that was maybe better than Stephen. You know what I mean? That it was someone that was, no. But maybe if there's anybody else you wanted to talk to us about today.
So it's really, as far as just supporting my journey into the entertainment world, I come from a family that's very traditional, sort of middle class family. We don't have any entertainers or entertainment background. And so while not specific to laughter or comedy, my parents and my family have always been incredibly supportive, coming out to see everything, financial support, things that really you have to have while you're trying to, find your path and figure out the business side of things. As far as comedy, and certainly friends as well. And as far as comedy goes, really my journey into comedy came super late. My journey into performing started as a teenager. I studied theater in college. I got into magic. I worked for a magician named Brett Daniels, who had a giant magic show, multi-million-dollar illusion show in a casino. And I worked for him for several years. I worked backstage, and I learned that side of things. And then little by little, I started doing my own thing. But even then, it took me years before I really started embracing any sort of comedy element to that. And so, I have some friends that are funny, and I think being around the people that I'm around influenced the type, because I had to try a lot of different types of comedy. So I can take magic and incorporate situational humor. I do some magic tricks that happen that the humor is all about the situation that we're in and the person who's being involved. But then I tried some things. I went out. Brian Bates was doing an open mic at a hotel, and I went out to several of those open mics, just trying to figure out, okay, how can I be funny? How can I be funny if I'm not doing magic tricks? And Nate as well. Nate gave me several opportunities to open up. Nate Bargatze said, "Hey, I'm doing a show at Zany's. Why don't you come and do 10 minutes?" And I said, "Do you want me to do magic or do you want me to do comedy?" He said, "Do whatever you want." Well, I mean, that's amazing. That's an amazing opportunity right there. You're going to stand in front of an audience who's excited and they've come to laugh. So Stephen helped me write a lot of material. So it's mostly the Bargatze clan that has supported me, but there is a Nashville, Middle Tennessee, some folks that are affiliated and associated that know Nate and Stephen, and then there are also some magicians that I know, and just personal friends who are very funny people, from my friend Bart and Kevin and some of these guys. Seeing different people with different types of sense of humor, you just have to learn as much as you can, and then at some point you got to put it in front of the audience and just see what happens.
Wow.
I got an answer to this. I want to hear from you two ladies first. We're going with Michelle first. Can you teach and pretend you're not Rick Roberts, but can you teach somebody to be funny?
I can, well, I used to have an after school comedy club for kids. I worked in an elementary school. So can I teach? No, you can't teach someone to be funny. I don't think so. You can teach the kids, like I helped them learn how to know when to laugh, because at kindergartners through second graders, they don't know when to laugh. So they don't, unless you fall down, they think, oh, that's funny. So
That is
we
funny.
had, yeah. So like we had to add like a rim shot kid, because we would do these one liners and things. And so we'd have to, and then after they heard the, then they laughed. So it was like, we had to train them how to laugh, when to laugh, kind of a thing. And the kids really loved the interactive kind of things. So yes, you can teach someone to be funnier, where you get your word placement or things like that. But I don't think you can actually teach the essence of funny. But I do know that through a lot of counseling, people can at least get their joy back, which is kind of close, kind of close to. So my office hours are no $300 an hour if you want to get your joy back today.
Steven's checking his watch at this point, Michelle.
No.
He just
I'm old and my medicine is ready at Publix. That's all I'm.
Oh, okay.
That's all I do now is doctor's appointments, chiropractors, and pick up medicine.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
so-
Steven, before I answer the question, I need to know what the right answer is, because that's how I roll.
No.
Can you
I got
teach?
it written down here, Jason. It's all written right here, so it's not much. No.
Yeah, I think you can.
$1,000.
I think you can teach someone how to formulate a joke. I think you can teach them, different tips and techniques to comedy. But I think that there's just something in somebody that causes them to be the funny person in the room. My little brother is one of the most hilarious people on the planet, and nobody set him down and told him how to tell a story and how to animate his, expressions and all of those things. He was born funny. Can he get on stage and do what I do right now? Absolutely not. He's got to learn how to harness it and those type of things. But if he ever did, I can tell you he'll be 10 times as funny as I'll ever be, because that's just in him. So I believe you can teach, as Michelle said, teach somebody to be funnier. But I do believe that is literally a gift that people have. And it's how they learn to use it is whether they're successful with it, is my answer.
Yep.
So what's the right answer?
I don't know. What do you say, Lincoln?
My
I think you
answer's
can
right.
teach somebody. I think you can help somebody strengthen their comedy muscles. Like you
Mhm.
can learn to view the world a certain way, but I genuinely look at it like a muscle. Like that is something that I have had to strengthen through exercises and whatnot.
Mhm.
And what, interestingly enough, I would talk to people like my mom, and she would say, "Jason, you are funny. You've always been funny." I never thought I was funny, but then when she said that, it made me think, well, I guess in like conversations with my family, I have comedic, and I'm funny in certain settings,
Yes.
and you just have to learn how to strengthen those muscles, and then you also have to learn how to trust them. And so I think you can, but I also believe that comedy and people who are naturally funny, it very well may. Now, I'm not saying that it can't be that they weren't created that way, but I do think that it can also be a byproduct of situation. Like if you do something with your family and you get a great reaction, and then you learn, okay, that gets a laugh, and then all of a sudden you try to recreate that, and once you learn how that works, you're off to the races. So to an extent, I think that you can learn how to be funny, but I mean, it's, was Nate funny?
Nate, I mean, y'all are talking, y'all hitting all right on everything. The thing I thought of the other day that I'll add to this, but Nathan's, he'll tell a story. I've heard him tell it 100 times. That when he was in high school, he went out with a bunch of his high school friends, and he told a story. And these are all of his friends and everybody he went to school with, and they were crying. Everybody's laughing. And then the next weekend, they're at another party somewhere else. He doesn't know anybody, but maybe 2 people. And one of his friends goes, "You've got to tell that story to these people." And he goes, "Oh, this is great." He already knows it fits. And he said he died. It was like a death. And so, I mean, there was all so much there. It wasn't, the story didn't change. It didn't, it was, so what was it?
Right.
What is it that, so it was on how to tell that story. So you had that. I remember Nathan as a little kid, and I've shared this story several times. He was 6 years old. I got him a joke book for Christmas, and he came and he was laughing so hard at this joke I mean, he was crying. He was trying to go, Dad, wait. He was trying to read it to me. And the joke was, they had a bowl of soup, and it said, waiter, waiter, there's a fly in my soup. And the waiter says, don't worry, the spider on the spoon will get it. That's the joke that just tore Nathan up. 6 years old. Nathan goes, Dad, you get why it's funny? Because you're not supposed to have a fly on your spoon. He said, that would be worse than the fly in your spoon. And that's what makes that thing funny. That's why we like it. And I honestly can remember going, what kid would have to try to know why that's funny without just laughing at it? Because it's funny. And but that was Nathan was always the kid that would stand by a sign that said beware of snakes, and he'd make the expression like he was scared, or I mean, he was always that kid. But he's very funny because when he performs, he's not animated at all.
That's true.
Yeah, he's very still and everything. And well, I am very much all over. I'm slapstick, but he is so far from that. But I think I do hear people say, well, I always hear people say you can't teach comedy.
Right.
And but here's what I think: all comedy is taught by our audience can teach us. Why do we listen to them? If you can't teach them, why do we listen to them so much? We can go tell a joke one night, and if they don't laugh, a lot of us will just throw it in the trash. We go, well, they said it wasn't funny, and we give up on it or whatever it is. So we do get taught all the time. I mean, we're learning by getting up there, doing it, and eventually you're going to. I mean, if you caught up there every night for 2 years, I promise you're going to have a strong 20 minutes of comedy because the audience would have taught you what's funny.
You know what I was thinking too, though, is like, as you were saying that, I'm thinking about Nate being your son and he was watching you, right? And then now that I think about it, I say, oh, well, I was the girl who was making everybody laugh. I also used humor as a weapon because I grew up in low income housing and government housing with a daddy named Hot Dog. Our power was shut off all the time. We were constantly being evicted from places. We lived 2 doors down from a strip club. Like
you had to be funny.
I had to be funny. It was my defense mechanism.
Or die, one of the two.
But my dad, yes, or funny or die. My dad is one of the funniest people that I know. Like his comedic timing, and I would see, and obviously not a clean comic, but I would watch him and I would listen to him, and his timing was impeccable. Just to be able to riff the way he did and tell stories the way that he could. I think that I was not taught comedy, but I was learning comedy at a young age. And my family used comedy as well, Michelle and I have just done an episode about how much we laughed at my mother's funeral in May. Like, most people like that seems crazy and inappropriate, but that's literally like my mom had the best sense of humor, and we used comedy as a survival technique of finding the humor in it. Otherwise, we would all have been horribly depressed, but we just found a way to find the obscure and laugh and those kind of things. So I say, oh, my brother was naturally funny, but actually my brother learned it by watching my dad.
Much.
And I'm sure my dad had an uncle, my Uncle Ben, who was hilarious. And I'm sure my dad learned a lot of that from him too. So
my dad, he was a very shy kid growing up because he had like a space in his teeth, like some of his teeth never grew in, so he had to have a bridge and things like that. So he was a very shy guy, and he read or heard Dale Carnegie, I think, talk about how the art of conversation and things like that. So he went and he memorized jokes, so that way when he was at a function, he would he'd have something to say. And so that's how he, kind of cut his teeth on comedy. And so growing up,
I see what you did there, Michelle. That was great.
We all got it.
Slid that in there. So growing up, watching my dad, who's an engineer and a salesman, just cut up with his friends and just, he's always funny. My whole family is funny. Like our cousin, Jimmy Leonardo, he is like Jim Carrey, like identical. Like if he wanted to go into comedy, he could have. And just the home videos that we have and things like that. But my dad spent the time to memorize jokes. And so he always had a good comeback. And then these jokes it didn't just stay with him. He started writing his own, unbeknownst to himself that he was writing his own, because it was out of his own conversations, on a sales trip or things like that. So I didn't really necessarily learn comedy from my dad, but I can definitely say my dad is funny, and I lived in a very comedic family. Not like June. We had an island. We had an island. We
Michelle,
had Hawaii.
I'm working on a bit right now about like that's not poor. Michelle's family literally owned an island in Indiana. Go figure.
Yeah, it's the big one. It was the big island.
What are you talking? I had a house.
Whatever.
My bedroom when I was in high school had icicles inside the bedroom walls. Like that's like I was frozen before Elsa was ever on the television screen. I was like the white.
I thought everybody had an island. I'm sorry, I didn't know. We had to use an outhouse. So
on your island, Michelle, an outhouse on the island. Moving on. So Stephen,
no running water.
Yeah.
Stephen, we interviewed Ken Davis. I'm not sure if you know who Ken Davis is, but we interviewed him a couple of episodes back, and immediately I talked to him about you, and it made me think about you as he was in class, and the teacher was doing some sort of lesson, and he was kind of insecure, and he shouted something out. He was not athletic. He said he was kind of that guy that always felt kind of on the outside. He shouted something out, inappropriate but hilarious. The whole class laughs. The teacher tells him he's staying. She's calling his mother. He's waiting. Mom shows up. And basically, when mom and dad come in, she says, I'm so glad both of you could be here because I wanted to tell you how amazing your son is. I wanted you to know that he has this gift in him of entertainment and creativity. And so I'm going to sign him up for the speech club. And I just needed you guys here to sign the documents.
How awesome.
And this teacher changed the direction of his life. And I know you mentioned getting an award and talking about spending time in school and the school system. And so before we close out, I would love for you to share, if you don't mind, because Michelle hasn't heard your story. It's about just kind of, I know that you have a heart for teachers and the school community and all of that. So I really feel like that's definitely, your story started with some support for sure.
Yeah, well, when we go to churches and stuff, my testimony is the one where people go, well, that guy needed Jesus. And Jason's that's why we've been good together so much, because Jason grew up in a very Christian family and everything in it, and it's a shame in the way we teach our world today. Today you go to a youth conference and there'll be 10 guys, I killed somebody, I used to do drugs, and then you don't ever get to hear from the guys that doing what we want them to do. Let's hear from the guys who's lived the life the whole time clean. I was the worst, and stuff. And when we get to heaven, it's not going to be us we're going to be all clapping for people like Jason and all the ones that's lived their life the whole time, that didn't have to go through all the crap I had to go through. But I had a very dysfunctional home, and I was bitten by a dog when I was young, and that's why I have a speech impediment. I was put in special ed classes. I was called retard and all the stupid names. I was left-handed, and back then we wouldn't let you be left-handed. They used to beat us for using our left hand. So I thought I was a terrible athlete. When I talked to teachers, I had a coach. My first time I ever went into a regular class that didn't have a nun as a teacher, and he asked me to throw a ball. Special ed classes got in the gym a little earlier than the other classes. And special ed classes, again, I'm old. There was no special needs at that time. It was resource. It was alternative school. It was, just kids that needed help. And so I was placed in the second grade in special ed and stayed there. And so I walked in and the teacher said, throw me a ball. They were cleaning up. And I thought it was a trick. I thought he was going to hit me. So I threw it with the wrong hand. And right when I was throwing it, the other classes were coming in because we had PE together. And right in front of everybody, he goes, man, you throw like a girl. Oh, gosh. I'm a retard. I throw like a girl. I throw all of this. And then later on, I just was a lot of abuse in our family and my family and stuff. I had a lot of trouble. And but I this is what my comedy was. My sister was going to a new high school, and I got a sister when she sleeps, she doesn't wake up, Cindy, and she's really hard to wake up. So I used to move her at night. I'd pick her up and go put her in different rooms every night. And she thought she was a sleepwalker. And I used to put her outside every once in a while. I didn't run in the rain, but I woke up outside, really. That and so that was that's comedy gold. But then I put nair in her eyebrows. It was right before she went to a new class. And those you don't know, this works really well. When she got up and washed her face, her eyebrows fell off, and she thought she had cancer.
Oh gosh!
My mother drew eyebrows on her and made her go to school her first day as a prostitute.
Yes.
Because I thought it was funny. Well, my dad took the nair, the tube, and he rubbed it in my hair. And whatever was left. So it wasn't uniform. So it's just like big humps fell out. So I had just like little patches. I had to go get a toboggan. But luckily the monkeys were popular. So one of those wore a toboggan. So I just looked like, I said that was my favorite monkey. And I was trying. So I wore a toboggan, but I didn't cut my hair for about 4 years. And so after that, I said, they're not making me cut my hair. I had really, really long hair. So I had another teacher that they used to come in special ed, and we used to have to pick up rocks off the football field. We used to have to clean up the cafeteria and do all this stuff. Nothing. So she came in there and she said, "I need people in the play, high school play, hippies." It was about like Woodstock, and all you gotta do is walk around and just be background. And we all had really long hair, so we're in this play, and they needed a kid to dance around and tell a joke in his underwear. And none of the cool kids would do it. So this teacher looked at me and said, "You know what? You're funny." And like Jason, no one's ever told me I was funny. And she said, "Would you dance around in your underwear?" And I said, "You bet I will." We got to say this joke. And back then I was stuttering. And I said, I'm not telling you a joke, but I'll dance in my underwear. So she figured it out. I got in a tent with this other guy. They would pull the string off. It looked like the wind blew the tent over. And then he would get up and tell the joke and I would dance around. Okay, now today I know it wouldn't look good to blow up and two guys and one in their underwear in the tent. But back then it was funny, trust me. But I danced around, and that's when I became the funny guy. That's when all of a sudden it was, "Oh, you're that guy that danced around and did everything." And I got my picture in the yearbook, and never had my picture. Most of the time, my picture said proof,
Yes.
those photos. But so I never had anything like that. So I think I relate so much to June, and I think it's one of my favorite things. I saw some lady on Johnny Carson's, how old it was, but that did a comedy movie about, and she was very funny. And he said, "You're very, very funny. You should be a comedian." And her answer was, "No, I grew up in a normal family." And you know how true that is, because I just remember going, how hard it is to be funny when you grow up in a normal family.
Yeah.
People like us that we have to struggle. We had to learn. You had to be funny in my family. And we never laughed so hard in my life. It was at my mom's funeral, and that happened. She died of COVID, in 2020. But some lady we never met showed up and said, your mom always wanted me to sing at her funeral. And my sister goes, "Sure." And we're going, "What?"
Yeah.
I didn't go to test her out, and my sister goes, "Sing 2 songs."
Yes.
And it was like, oh my God. And then when she sang her first song, it was better than we thought. My brother-in-law started clapping. So everybody stood up and clapped. It's a funeral.
Yes.
You're clapping to this lady. So I'm up there because I'm saying, no, we don't clap at a funeral. So now we all know we can't clap. So she sang a second song, and my brother-in-law, his daughter, she stood up clapping. She's the only one, because she didn't see me say no. So she stood up now she's okay. So I got asked to speak, and it was my anniversary. She got married on my anniversary, 40th anniversary. So I told my wife, I go, honey, I'm sorry I didn't have time to go out and get you anything today, but something tells me you're going to get some really nice flower arrangements later on.
Yes. Yes.
The only other we would all go, oh, that was great.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
I think that's the time though, like literally that's the time that we need to laugh the most. My dad, when mom passed away, just within a few hours, we're standing in the parking lot and is straight faced because my sister is a lot more, we'll say reserved than I am. And he looks at my sister and he goes, I know the song I want. And Bobby goes, okay, Daddy, what do you want? And he goes, I'd really like to play Prop Me Up by the Jukebox. He did not break. And my sister looked at me and I go, I think that's pretty special. And then my dad's like, okay, fine. But I do want something from Kenny Rogers. And we're like, okay, well, we could do. But I'm telling you, Stephen, Michelle laughed at my mother's funeral in front of everyone.
Cried.
Yes. So Michelle drives all the way from Tulsa, Oklahoma to come to my mother's funeral. Mom's, her death was very unexpected. And her husband make the drive from Tulsa, Oklahoma to right here in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Wow.
And they show up. She's now getting to meet my sister, Bobby Joe, and my brother, Dewey, and my blind cousin, Dina, who drives the car, my daddy, Hot Dog, and like all of the people that people really question me whether they're real or not.
They're real.
Yes, they're all real. And she goes, she's one of the last to come through the line, and she hugs my dad. And my dad looks at her and goes, well, I told him to bury her with her false teeth because I'm pretty sure she's going to be ready to chew my butt by the time I get up there. This is during the funeral. And Michelle's laughing. No one can hear the joke but Michelle and my dad. And this is how my dad closes out the funeral, is Michelle laughing hysterically at my mother's funeral. So I absolutely love the flower joke. It's such good timing.
He did set it up earlier, though. I'm just letting you know that wasn't the first joke he told me there. Earlier, he was telling me all about how he was trying to pay for the funeral with the S&H stamps. Like he just went into this whole routine of how he's going to take care of everything that was happening. So when we got up to say our condolences and shake the hands, I went for a handshake, he went for a hug, and then told me this other stuff. And I couldn't stop. I just could not stop laughing at that point. And then it was a laugh. I just started crying.
But that truly is how he handled the fact that like my dad has been impoverished. My mom, when she passed away, there was no money for her funeral. I don't know if you paid for a funeral lately, but it cost a lot of money. And my dad shows up the next day and he's got Marlboro Miles and S&H stamps. And he's like, so I hear you guys accept, but truly it was just a padding for the fact that he knew there was no money. My brother's a police officer. I'm not exactly the most successful comedian on the planet yet. We'll see. Yet. And my sister's a school teacher. So there was nothing there, but here's how God showed out and showed up. Right before the visitation began, the funeral director came in and said someone came in and laid down $8,000.
Wow.
To cover my mom's funeral. Now,
well,
my dad's life.
Not to tell anybody that I did this.
I know. So now is my opportunity because it was anonymous, but it was totally anonymous except for, but they made.
Sure you think Nate.
Yeah, but the funeral director was like, but the guy wanted you to see that he signed the check, Stephen Bargatze, and I was like, sweet, okay, thanks for sharing.
Now, this poor guy that did that, we just want to say, no, you got all.
No, for sure. For sure.
I didn't get invited. Not that you get invited to funerals. But, we want to invite you to my mom's funeral.
Yes. We so would have.
You're invited to mine.
All right,
it's an open invitation.
There we
I'll
go.
Try to get everybody to laugh.
There it is. And please come to mine and tell some jokes about flowers.
Well, I'll stick up on yours, Michelle, and put a little pig hat on you for the person behind me.
That's
and now you know how my cat felt.
And look at that. That's how we have to wrap this thing up. We went full circle. Stephen
That's
Bargatze
right.
with the callback to the cat with the piggy head. Hey, friends, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of the Laugh Support Podcast. We encourage you to check out Jason Michaels. His website is mysteriesandillusions.com. That's Jason Michaels at mysteriesandillusions.com. And then if you want to check out the amazing Stephen Bargatze, you can find him at Magic of Stephen. It's STEPHEN.com, magicofstephen.com. If you would like to see the picture of Michelle's kitty cat and the pig head and all of that, make sure that you check us out on YouTube. You can also watch us on the Creative Motion Network on Roku TV and on Vimeo. And of course, you can listen to the Laugh Support Podcast basically on all the major platforms: Amazon, Apple, Audible, Spotify, Player FM, and others. So, y'all, that's going to be it for this episode of Laugh Support Podcast. Stephen and Jason, we're going to kick you to the back for just a minute. Enjoy the snacks in the green room. Don't leave us, though. We want to tell you a proper goodbye. And Michelle and I are going to
Thanks for
close this
having
thing
us.
out.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Here's my magic trick. They're gone.
Whoa! You have to have the gloves.
Whoa.
We should have asked about the gloves. No, I don't think. I
Yes.
don't think I saw either one of them wear the gloves. Michelle, what a great interview. But also, are you going to give him his cat back?
No, it's going to my son at college.
Well, listen. Now that you know how famous and successful this family is, I'd say for the right
think-
ransom, right?
I'm not going to go with ransom. I think it's more along the lines of cat support. I
Ooh.
think that they should do cat support. And so he is now eating 5 pounds of cat food each week. No, I have no idea.
Mhm, and prices have gone up. So yeah. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
we'll work.
yeah.
We can work that out later. Well, y'all, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Laugh Support. As always, I will tell you that Jesus and Junebug loves you. And Michelle, close us out, my friend.
I just want to say thank you for listening and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend or week or month or whenever you're listening to this.
Or
You guys
Jason
have a
months.
great day. Or Jason month. Enjoy your Jason months.
Yes.
Thanks for
Bye,
listening.
y'all.